This episode is brought to you by Bleacher Report. How do you follow sports? From college football to the NBA, Bleacher Report brings you the latest news, live scores, and epic highlights from your favorite leagues, teams, and athletes, all in one app. Dive into exclusive shows hosted by your favorite athletes and original Bleacher Report series with breaking news, rumors, and predictions all season long. Download Bleacher Report to personalize your coverage.
This episode is brought to you by LifeLock. The holidays mean more travel, more shopping, more time online, and more personal info in places that could expose you to identity theft. That's why LifeLock monitors millions of data points every second. If your identity is stolen, their US-based restoration specialists will fix it, guaranteed or your money back. Get more holiday fun and less holiday worry with LifeLock. Save up to 40% your first year. Visit LifeLock.com/podcast. Terms apply.
This episode is brought to you by AWS. Amazon Q Business is the generative AI assistant that can securely understand your business data, summarize results, and streamline tasks. Learn what Amazon Q Business can do for you at aws.com/learn more.
Thanks for choosing this free Anfield Index podcast. If you'd prefer to listen to this or any of our other shows without adverts, then now's the time to check out Anfield Index Pro. With AI Pro, you can supercharge your entire listening experience. You'll not only get all of our podcasts without the ads, but you'll have them far faster with our quick publish feature available exclusively for subscribers. AI Pro also puts you in the heart of our sound studio, with an option to listen to many of our shows live and interact with the podcasters in real time as the shows are recording. Upgrading couldn't be easier. AI Pro is available on all popular podcast platforms. Just head on over to AnfieldIndexPro.com and get started today.
Hello and welcome to your post-match Raw, podcasting to you from my field here in beautiful, rural, Christmassy Ireland. I'm Trev Downey, and joining me to give his immediate reaction, singular, to Liverpool 3, Leicester City 1 is Mr. Karl Matchett. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, mate, and happy Christmas to you and all the listeners.
Same to yourself and the extended Matchett crew. I have been in the usual funk and stupor of food and drink like everybody else. I'd like to say that I was absolutely livened out of it by the prediction of 7 or 8-0, which all the Premier Sports boys were doing. That's the Irish channel that does some Premier League stuff. They had the genius that is Kenny Cunningham predicting more than 7 or 8-0. It's like they've never watched the Premier League. I understand that it was supposedly a backhanded compliment to Liverpool, but I didn't think that was ever going to happen. We did start pretty well. We'll get to all of that kind of stuff, but just your initial response to it. Is it one of those, Karl? I mean, not to be too, old-fashioned Liverpool post-match interview where you just go, I've hit it and it's gone in and we take each game as it comes and blah, 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 But is it really just about the fact that we managed to grow that little bit of a gap on Chelsea now and take advantage of their slip-up?
Yeah, it's lovely. Look, I mean, if we had Cole Palmer on the podcast today, then his response would be, yeah. Int he's not on. I'll offer you a few more words. Look, it's important, not obviously just that we got ahead of Chelsea, but let's not forget Arsenal are playing tomorrow, and they can reduce the gap now more than Chelsea can right at this moment in time because of their results. So it was very important that we did open up that gap. 6 points never feels massive, even though I've said before, I do think Arsenal have erred a couple too many times already for them to genuinely be in it for the long haul. But that doesn't matter if you don't win your games. Other teams can get back into it. So it was really, really important for us to keep doing this, to keep doing what we have been doing, and not just for the reasons of getting the points, but also to keep showing ourselves that we can, if we face a setback, find different ways to overcome that.
And when you have a look at the Premier League table, I'm not sure if you can get access to one quite quickly there, but if you can, it makes for very, very, very pleasant viewing to see Liverpool at that perch. The one that Ferguson was so pleased to knock us off and keep us off for so long, the one we retook briefly under Klopp and threatened to have a period of regaining. We never quite did. We were always the bridesmaids when it came to this particular competition, with the exception of once. For Slot to come in and be in this situation that he's in now speaks absolute volumes about the crew that Jurgen Klopp put together, about the standard of football and the character of those footballers, but also about this man and what he's done to not let the whole thing fall apart, to be what we had hoped for, Karl. I remember you and I talking about this, to be the continuity guy, not the transition guy, the continuity guy, the guy who keeps it going and perhaps can tweak it for the better, because we have to be honest, there were a few things that we were getting frustrated with in the late Klopp era. And he's done that. And to be sitting there with that lovely gap, 7 over Chelsea, and, you know, as you say, probably more than likely going to be 6, isn't it, over Arsenal when they get their 3 points, their likely 3 points to put them on 36. Forest in what everyone keeps saying is a false position in 34 points. Newcastle had a good win today to bring them up to 29, and Bournemouth are on 29 again. Both of those seem just a little bit odd, but it's because of the fall away of the likes of City and Villa and some other teams, Tottenham, who you would expect to be up there. It's just a very pleasant vista, Karl, and it's not in any way spawny or, you know, we've had the rub of the green or the fixtures or the decisions. It's well merited. That's the most pleasing thing about it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like, we've had previous seasons where we can say, like, you know, things go against us and we would be top if we hadn't have dropped the 2 points here and the 2 points here, and this bad decision hadn't have cost us here. At the minute, and it's just under half a season, but at the minute, we've deserved everything that we've got so far. Like, the wins that we've had, even when we've not played that well, we've done something in the game where we can say we deserve the win because of this. We've not had a team come to us and be better than us, and they should have won that game, other than Nottingham Forest, who did win that game. So we didn't get any points, which we shouldn't have done there. The draws that we've had, even we've scrapped for them when we fought for them, and we've had to do something to get them. Obviously, the Fulham result being a really good example of that. And I just think that at the minute, every time that we pick up another win, it seems to be at the end of a game that we thoroughly deserve to win. And more often than not, it can be that we deserved a bigger scoreline than we actually got. And like you say, the gaps are a lovely thing to look at this stage of the season, especially when you see we've got a game in hand on most of them. And, well, you pointed it out, and there's no real way to sort of talk about it now other than in kind of amazed terms, to be perfectly honest. But 14 points clear of Man City with a game in hand? What?
Let's do the thing that, you know, the spirit of Hendrik wants us to do. Let's talk about those 2 games where we did draw, because it is a stunning concept, a really stunning concept to conjure up the league table with an extra 4 points on there, where Liverpool have 46 and would be then some 11 points clear of Chelsea with a game in hand. I mean, do we, in the vein of just trying to be honest, you mentioned that thing about we ifs and buts, and we were, like I had said, always the bridesmaids, and we're always looking back at that bad decision, as you said, or that dodgy goal, or that thing that shouldn't have stood, or if we could have just. Is there any way, shape or form, is there any grounds for any sort of hand-wringing about potentially not maximizing the full thing here? Or do we have to actually be realistic and go over the course of a season? Once you don't lose, it's not awfully bad, especially if it's against Newcastle away, who can, you know, be pretty impressive on their night. And, you know, when things don't go your way in a game and you've a man sent off, to get that draw against Fulham, in the greater context, are they actually decent results in the same way that the defeat against Nottingham Forest is seeming less and less awful every time Nottingham Forest stay where they are?
I mean, you can always look at it 2 ways, right? Hindsight is a really good thing, and sometimes it allows you to see the thing that you complained about at the time wasn't so bad. Like, you know, Fulham were in the middle of a pretty decent run, and they are level on points with Villa and Man City right now. So is a draw to them after we've had someone sent off and we fought as much as we did a bad result? I don't think it was. I think the performance was decent as well as the result. Away to Newcastle, I think if you're getting hung up about dropping points away to Newcastle, personally, you're looking at the wrong thing here, regardless of where you are in the table. Like, that place is tough to go to. Everybody knows it. Everybody knows those fans get up for the biggest of matches and the really massive stadium. It's noisy and all the things. Like, take into context everything. Obviously, it's always going to be disappointing to lose a game, and obviously even more so when it's at Anfield. But Nottingham Forest have been really good. And we didn't play well that day. So you have to play well. Like you've just said before, it's like those pundits have never watched a game. Like, we can all predict a big win for Liverpool. And I thought we were in this one by 4 or 5 goals. Fine. That can happen. But also what can happen is teams raise their game against the best teams because they're in the window. That's the big one for the season for some of them. It's a club that maybe they looked up to. People do this every single week in the Premier League. And it's no bad thing to have a little bit of humility along the way as well and accept that, yeah, you do have to work your bollocks off as well as play well every single time you step out onto that pitch.
Absolutely fair. Let's get into the run of things. And obviously, just for a heads up for anyone listening to this, because we have 2 voices, this is going to be a shorter podcast. We're going to aim at about 45, myself and Karl, to do justice to this match. So we're going to go through our usual things. We'll start with the Liverpool 11, which had a lovely solid look to it, although, and we'll come to it in a second, a few eyebrows might have been raised at one particular selection. In Alisson, Alexander-Arnold, Gomez, Van Dijk and Robertson, we've got the best back 4 we can currently manage for sure. Gravenberch, McAllister and Jones is another one that it's been that way for a couple of years now. One person in each of the lines that's usually up for grabs. Curtis getting the nod ahead of Dom. Gakpo, Nunes and Mo are our 3 frontmen, and Nunes again would have been one that some people would have. I know they're starting to lose patience with in a very big way, especially in a game where, you know, we really want to hammer home our advantage. As the game went on, it seemed more and more as if all of those guys who are very black-pilled about Darwin at this stage were looking to be very right. We'll get to that. But the bench had a nice sort of whiff of solidity about it too, with Kelleher, Endo, Diaz, Szoboszlai, Chiesa, Elliott, Jota, Tsimikas and Kwanzaa. I'm liking the look of this. And it basically just bears out a squad that has 2 lads injured who are one flat-out first teamer and one borderline first teamer in our centre half and our covering right back. So it's, I think, probably understandable, Karl, you will have more insight into this than I do, that he would probably look to ease someone like Jota back into things, that Diaz possibly may have been reaching some sort of load moments wise or minutes on the pitch wise, so that Nunes, who does desperately need to get his confidence in, you can see a logic to that. You can see a logic to Curtis coming in for the same reasons. Was that pretty much your thinking as you looked at it, or were you just surprised and annoyed or anything else?
With the lineup?
Yeah.
I didn't see anything to be annoyed at in the lineup. I was marginally surprised maybe that Tsimikas didn't start instead of Robertson, because they'd been kind of dovetailing prior to Tsimikas' injury. Robertson then had to sort of play 3-4 in a row, something like that. And we know that at the minute he's not necessarily starring or playing to his best level when he has to play back-to-back games every 3-4 days. And I expected him to play against West Ham, so I thought maybe Tsimikas in for this one. But other than that, nothing major. Again, Jones and Szoboszlai have been coming in and out for each other, and obviously we'll get to another part, but there was a reason to leave Szoboszlai on the bench today, other than the fact he clocked up about 700 miles running in his previous appearance. The rest of it I thought was fine. Okay about Nunez, but if you've got a striker who you can't bring into the lineup, or you're going to feel annoyed at being in the lineup if we're playing a team in the relegation zone, again, I think there's more things to worry about here, because you're suggesting that the squad only has 12 players, 13 players who you can choose between, and if one of those is not in that group who's in the lineup, you've got an excuse ready-made why you're not winning, why you're not playing well, why you're not scoring enough goals, or whatever the rest of it is. People have to contribute in different ways, and it's not ideal, especially when we spend so much money on him. But if the way that Nunez can contribute at times is that he plays some of the times and somebody else doesn't and conserves their minutes for some other game, that might be the way we have to look at it for now. And like, not every signing has got to be a starter or a star. Some of them will be really good at the beginning and maybe not work out later on. But people play a different role all the time. And look, Nunez, we know he's not on his best level. And we also know that he's not really looking like a great fit for the way that we want to play. But he has got to play a part, because we cannot just play Jadon Dans every single game, or we can't just play Jota non-stop and then he gets injured again and then we miss him for most of the rest of the season. Like, we have to be a bit sensible about things, and Darwin has a role to play, like it or not, and whether you think he's doing it well or not, he has a role to play because we need him to play a role.
Hey, it's Austin James. Yes, I'm living with diabetes, but it doesn't have to define me. Thanks to the Freestyle Libre 3 Plus sensor, I get real-time glucose readings throughout the day. The Freestyle Libre 3 Plus sensor is small and easy to wear, giving me the freedom to focus on my life as a parent and a musician. Now this is progress. You can get a free sensor at freestylelibre.us.
Offer available for people who qualify. Visit myfreestyle.us to see all terms and conditions. Certain exclusions apply. Data on file, Abbott Diabetes Care, or prescription only. Safety info found at freestylelibre.us.
This year, Santa's bringing the power of Energizer into his workshop.
Whoa, the Energizer Bunny's got so much power.
Wait, he's powered up all the toys. I think that means we're done for the year.
I love this bunny.
He's the hardest working helper the North Pole has ever seen. And he wants all your gifts to have the power of the #1 longest lasting AA battery. So this holiday season, stock up on Santa's and the elves' favorite battery, Energizer Ultimate Lithium.
Subtle results, still you, but with fewer lines. Botox Cosmetic, onabotulinum toxin A, is a prescription medicine used to temporarily make moderate to severe frown lines, crow's feet, and forehead lines look better in adults.
Effects of Botox Cosmetic may spread hours to weeks after injection, causing serious symptoms. Alert your doctor right away as difficulty swallowing, speaking, breathing, eye problems, or muscle weakness may be a sign of a life-threatening condition. Patients with these conditions before injection are at highest risk. Don't receive Botox Cosmetic if you have a skin infection. Side effects may include allergic reactions, injection site pain, headache, eyebrow and eyelid drooping, and eyelid swelling. Allergic reactions can include rash, welts, asthma symptoms, and dizziness. Tell your doctor about medical history, muscle or nerve conditions including ALS or Lou Gehrig's disease, myasthenia gravis, or Lambert-Eaton syndrome, and medications, including botulinum toxins, as these may increase the risk of serious side effects. For full safety information, visit BotoxCosmetic.com or call 877-351-0300.
See for yourself at BotoxCosmetic.com.
I don't need a VPN. I've got nothing to hide. Ha. This is what I used to tell myself before I hooked up with LibertyShield.com. Not only is my home internet now fully encrypted, but I can now access all the websites I want, whenever I want, and do so from absolutely anywhere. As a Liverpool fan, I love to know I can now watch every match, regardless of whether it's on UK TV or not. My Liberty Shield VPN makes sure nothing is blocked and guarantees me super fast streaming speed throughout that match. You can get connected right now with their software package, which includes a 48-hour no-obligation free trial and instant access to their apps for Apple, Android, Fire TV, PC, Mac, and Android TV. Or go a step further like I have and get one of their pre-configured VPN routers. These small but powerful devices allow you to easily connect every device in your home to VPN, making it the perfect solution for smart TVs, Mac boxes, and games consoles. Visit LibertyShield.com today and use coupon code AIVPN25 to get 25% off at checkout.
I think that's really spot on, man. What you've done there is you've cut through an awful lot of the bullshit opinion stuff about whether someone is or is not good enough or performing well enough at a given moment. It's a very practical way to look at things. Nothing is going to happen in the short term. And if the lad can fill a role, as you say, even if it is simply by being on the pitch and taking minutes when lads are not necessarily able to do it, we will obviously have different points of view. And as we roll through this, we're going to talk about the various strengths and weaknesses, more of those latter ones of Darwin's game currently. But I couldn't agree more with you. It's a practical consideration at the end of the day, and it goes way beyond anything other than that. To talk briefly then about our opposition tonight in Leicester, they're unfortunate. They probably would have loved to have had Jamie Vardy around, their talisman, no matter whether he's 47 or not at this stage. They went tonight with a young Polish goalkeeper in Stolarczyk, who I thought did very well, which you're not surprised with at any keeper coming to Anfield. James Justin and Cody and Vestergaard and Christensen made up a back four. Winks, Sumare, Ayew, El Kanous, Mavididi and Daka in their more attacking roles. Off the bench, they could bring Iverson, Okoli, Dekerdova-Reid, Chowdhury, Skip, Edouard, Thomas, Alves and Buonanotte. And a few of them did make an appearance. Ruud van Nistelrooy, the coach, I have very little understanding of whether that is a good or a bad thing. I know he's done a stint in Holland. I know he had that short period where he was caretaker at United. I can't see any specific thing here because apparently in their last couple of games, they've been very lax defensively and conceded a lot of goals. They seem to have gone out of their way tonight to be a lot more solid. They seem to have at least a physicality in them, exemplified by people like Ayew throwing themselves about and making sure they were kind of solid. And they also seem to have quite a bit of the old dark arts going on with diving and time wasting, spectacularly rife tonight at Anfield. What do you make of them and whether they have a shout of staying in the division?
Look, I mean, we spoke, myself and Dave on Scouted about this, and ultimately for Leicester, I don't mind Van Nistelrooy being there in the slightest, right? If they think that he's the guy for them, that's absolutely fine. He's had short stints as coach. If that's what they're judging it on, all good. My question is, firstly, whether they had considered him as an option before 4 games in charge of Man United, because it didn't really seem like he was being linked anywhere. He was available in the summer when Leicester themselves got a new manager, and he certainly wasn't spoken about as being one of the names they were considering next. So I'm not 100% sure what the process has been for them to think he's now such a good option for them, other than that 4-game stint as an interim boss at Old Trafford, when, let's be perfectly honest, they couldn't have gotten much worse at that point. If that is a jumping decision that they've made just because he's suddenly available and high profile, I have very little sympathy for what comes next. As for, is he a good spot for them? Again, we spoke about this. If you're Leicester City fans, bored, whatever you are, I'm not really sure what you're expecting this season other than a massive struggle to stay up. Like, you have a championship squad, you've added a few bits to it, you've not wildly spent money, and ahead of this weekend, the Boxing Day run of games, they were outside the bottom 3. When they obviously decided to change manager, they were outside the bottom 3. But the teams ahead of them, Crystal Palace were really good last year. Everton are always very, very difficult to finish ahead of and know what it's like to be in a relegation fight and survive. And then the next teams are Manchester United and West Ham and Brentford and Tottenham. Do they think that they're going to be ahead of any of these teams? That's my question. Like, why are they upset? I get that they didn't like the style or that the manager had been somewhere at another club that they didn't want. But what extra are you expecting to get out of a managerial change? If Leicester finished 17th, that is a magnificent, miraculous season for them. And right now, I'm not 100% sure that what they've done gives them the best chance to do that, but that's their choice, and obviously now they live with that.
They do. They do. And I like you, I'm a little bit nonplussed. I'd love to know the thinking. I'd love to know what the process and the mindset was around the appointment, because you do suspect sometimes that some clubs just appoint lads because they are a name, and the ex-pro, like top star profile must work in the advantage of people. We've seen it several times. We've seen Steven Gerrard struggle to make himself a manager. We saw Frank Lampard do the same. It's not surprising that they get appointments, but it will be interesting to see whether or not he ever turns into anything much. In terms of the opening bits and bobs, we'll just mention at the start that referee Darren Bond, it was his first Liverpool game. I could be wrong, Karl, but I believe it's one of his very first Premier League games as well. Somebody said earlier on Twitter, I don't know if it's real or not, that this guy is 45. He absolutely looks like the type of lad I used to see when I was a kid over in the seminary that my mother used to work in the infirmary, like a head of a trainee priest on this lad. It's spectacular. But someone said he's 45 and he's only starting in the Premier League now. I don't know. Maybe that's nonsense. Maybe you know a bit more about it than I do. You can come into that if you want at any point, but let's just start with the bad news, because we do start off with good intent. At 3-minute mark, Mo has an effort at the back stick. It's a great ball in from Cody Gakpo, who was so effective tonight in all the things that he did. He did his usual Cody cut in, and instead of cut in and shoot, he does a cut in and cross. It's a deep in-swing cross from left to right to the back stick. Mo seems to get something on it. It pings around a bit. We don't get a replay on the thing I'm watching. And we had a couple of dangerous balls into their box on the back of that. So we started with a little bit of a flurry of pressure. And then in much the same way as what happened in the second half, it seemed that all they needed to do really was attack and we would be vulnerable. I don't like this. I didn't like it today at all. And it was so straightforward, the goal that IU scored in so many ways. Mabadidi got free on the left. He's picked out. Grav is tracking because Trent had pushed on. But Mabadidi sort of drags the ball across the face, eludes any tackle, any ability to stop the cross. It just kind of rolls with a little bit of pace across. And IU is up against VVD, and he manages to sort of do a weird combination of out-muscling and out-maneuvering our main man. Sorry, Robbo, rather. He manages to do a weird combination of out-muscling and out-maneuvering Robbo. Swivels and hits a low shot toward goal, which would have been saved by Ali, but it comes off Virgil's leg and goes right into the bottom corner. It was a flattener. We didn't give in, obviously, but it was so much not what everyone was expecting and so much not what the first couple of minutes led us to believe. Just talk to us a little bit about that, about the concession of the goal, what you felt were the issues around it, or do we just chalk that one down, or do you see any specific blame to be apportioned?
I mean, it's tricky, isn't it? I mean, I do wonder whether, not to get all Premier Sports pundits and say it should have been 8-0 or whatever on it, but we, as a fan base, as a team, rightly so, like not going over the top, but rightly so, we did expect to win. We would have expected to go into this game and be heavy favourites, we're top in the relegation zone. So we were probably like wildly optimistic about the game, and we almost scored inside 2 minutes, and that probably added to it. Should have scored inside 2 minutes, I should say. And then you're right, it was a flattener for that exact reason. It was like the complete opposite. It wasn't just like maybe a normal game where you're playing just, I don't know, any old run-of-the-mill top half team or something like that. It was a game where we kind of, maybe there were a few too many expected to Leicester just to roll over. I don't know. But it definitely did flatten the mood. Probably a bit of that is lent by the fact that I think that was about the only touch that they had in our box in the first half. Maybe there was another one after that, but there certainly wasn't much. The goal itself, I mean, I would like to say that maybe there was a couple of times in that first half where Trent was actually sprinting back to get into position, whereas obviously in previous matches we've noted that hasn't been the case all the time. And for this particular goal, not tremendous in terms of stopping the pass and then stopping the cross coming in. But I don't want to just say it's Robertson's fault, but a lot of it is. Come on, that's just a normal challenge. He's gone shoulder to shoulder with the forward, and the forward has been a lot stronger than him. And not just to the extent that he's barged him out of the way, but they send him completely off balance so he can't see the ball. Like, he's facing the long way by the end of it. And that's why Robertson kind of gambles or guesses that he's going to shift it to his right foot. So he steps to his left side. But actually, like you said, it's kind of a control and a spin at the same time. So the ball doesn't move, and IU moves closer to our right side as such. So Robertson out of the game by then. Virgil obviously tries to make a bit of a block on it, and that's what beats Ali. It's just very scruffy defending again. Like, we'd really, really, I think, all appreciate going back to the start of the season where you had such a really strong base and we barely conceded any chances, let alone any goals. And admittedly, that was the case for most of the rest of the game. But still, you want a clean sheet, and we haven't had that many recently. And now we're not the team with the fewest goals conceded in the Premier League, and Arsenal conceded one fewer than us. And just a bit too sloppy at times in defence, I think, or a bit too not getting to the ball fast a few too many times. So I don't want to say it's like too much blame only on Robertson, because I always think that you should be cutting out crosses first of all, and I think that you should be reacting to passes and danger out wide by doubling up whenever possible. But it was so early and so out of nothing almost that it was a little bit difficult to react to, and I would have wanted more response is probably my bigger thing.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it was the fact that it took a full half of football, more or less, for us to get back into it that was the most frustrating aspect of it, and was leading a lot of people, I think, who are that way inclined. And, the Bird app is a place where all of those people congregate and put all their bad stuff out into the ether together. And an awful lot of people were going, oh, it's going to be one of those nights. But again, I just don't. Do you not watch us? Do you not watch this team? We had overall 19 shots to their 4 and 7 on target to their 1, and 70% of the ball, all of which would pretty much back up what you're saying. 90% pass accuracy from us as well, compared to their 75, would also back up what you're saying. Interesting that Liverpool fouled 17 times versus 5 for Leicester. Something slightly hinky about that, it seems to me. 3 yellow cards picked up by the Reds versus their 2. And when you think about the amount of time that they wasted, I don't know. I just feel again that maybe this referee had his pants pulled down a few times. Seemed a little bit naive about what some of the things they were doing. But anyway, this is what you have to overcome. We tried to get back into it a little bit. Darwin heads one wide on 12. There's a dangerous ball in by Trent on 14, which leads to a corner. Darwin has a bit of a neat near post flick from that, leads to another corner, and nothing arises from that. Cody's probably offside, but Robbo plays a great ball into him. It doesn't come off. Cody just can't quite get there. But again, I thought Robertson responded reasonably well to what could have been a lot of finger pointing. I think it's probably with Robbo the fact that he has fairly unshakable self-confidence and probably thinks everyone else is to blame most of the time. We saw Mo get in on 23, where he got the ball with about 4 guys around him and took a shot which got a deflection, led to a corner. Just before that, Cody got a sighter, cutting in and shooting wide of the top corner, which he would rectify later on. Nice bit of play. There's a ball back to Trent. From that corner from the Mo Salah chance, and Trent's second cross is headed by Robertson off the base of the post. So we are actually going quite at it. They had we continued to have some good pressure. We were really, obviously, the intent was great, and I think this is where I don't understand an awful lot of the commentary teams. They really overplay everything the opposition does and downplay what we were doing. There was real intent. It wasn't as cutting edge as we'd like, but there's a couple of really great opportunities there where fellas were nearly in, and we continue to keep that pressure up, Karl, on about the 26-minute mark, where Daka's lying on the ground, having kicked into the base of the sole of someone's foot. And he's lying there absolutely motionless, like he's dead, or it's a most serious injury. Not looking around him, nothing. Pure time wasting. You know that's what he's doing. We get a few crosses over and into their box before the referee decides to stop the play. Now, as I said, when you go and look at what happened, Daka kicks the bottom. I think it's a Virgil Studs. It seems to be a bit of a clown show situation. How can you stop the play in that situation? And yet again, this lot seemed to get away with something tonight. And you can understand people were getting a bit pessimistic at that point, Karl.
Yeah, I mean, maybe irritated I could. Probably not pessimistic. I think that would be a step too far, because I do think this Liverpool side, even this iteration of the Liverpool side under Slot, have shown that we can come back from adversity and go on a goal behind and all the rest of it. I mean, that exact moment that you're talking about with the toe death, shall we say, of Ayo, whoever it was. I mean, on the one hand, I'm glad the referee didn't blow the whistle initially, and Leicester, players were all doing the usual of pointing to him as though we just hadn't noticed or something, and that we were magically going to go fine and kick the ball out of play, which honestly bugs the shit out of me when people do this. Not just Liverpool, anybody. Someone's on the floor and you boot it out of play. Unless you're like 4-0 up and you don't care how much time is wasted or whatever, I don't see why people do that. But we all know that they're not injured. We can all see that they're not injured. So on the one hand, we did play on for a while and we completely ignored their pointing, which was really good to see. And then obviously the ref did blow the whistle. I have a minor amount of sympathy for him because it had been hammed up so much that maybe he thought, maybe I missed it and he actually is injured here. So it was a good 20 seconds later or whatever. But my issue then is that wasn't added on. He was down and got treatment and that wasn't added on, because if it was, then none of the goal kicks were added on. And they were 20, 30 seconds every single time. Slot was having to go at the fourth official about it. They must know this. So I joked about it during the game, but if that was the group stage of the 2022 World Cup, that's 28 minutes getting added on right there in the end of the first half. I'm not suggesting that was the answer, but if something like that extreme happened once or twice, maybe it would stop. I get Leicester are not likely to beat Liverpool and they have to employ whatever methods, fine, but also the referee is still there to do a job which includes managing the game, allowing people to do what they're allowed to do and stopping them doing what they're not allowed to do. So you can't just be wasting time from the 10th minute onwards on every single restart with zero repercussion. You can't have it both ways. I don't like it.
Hey guys, it's Eddie Gibbs from Anfield Index here. I hope you're enjoying this podcast, and I'm sorry to call time on the show before it ends. In the current climate, it's tougher than ever before to offer podcasts for free. At Anfield Index, we produce over 75 free shows every month, which I'm confident is unparalleled in the LFC sphere. Whilst we'd love to offer everything for free, the production costs now make this impossible. That said, we don't want to follow the model of other channels and lock all of our content behind a paywall. So what we've decided to do is to continue offering every show for free, but cut that offering to 30 minutes on our longer shows. So to get all of our shows in full and enjoy the best of everything we have to offer, we really hope you'll consider supporting the channel and signing up at AnfieldIndexPro.com. For about the price of 1 cup of coffee, you'll get every podcast in full with 0 ads. You'll also get access to our LFC VIP community, where you can enjoy live podcasts, engage with our podcasters, and chat with other Reds in real time. So that website again, AnfieldIndexPro.com. Join today.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.